Thank you, Trip. How's everybody doing? You awake still? Seems pretty sleepy in here. All right. Overall, very excited to be back at NC State, going into year 13, and with this group of guys, and to be a part of a program that's done a lot of great things, and a very humble and hungry group of guys that are ready to earn where we stand in college football this year. And, rewinding back to when I first got here, there was a lot of goals I had for myself and for NC State. And to now fast forward and be one of, the sixth most tenured coach in college football, to be the winningest coach in school history, to be in 10 bowl games in the last 12 years, to build a sustainable model of success. I've had a back-to-back highest GPAs in school history. There's just so many positive things happening on our campus through the leadership of Boo Corrigan and Kevin Howell, our new chancellor. And to be with a group of guys that, like me, have a big edge to them. It's been probably the most coachable team I've had in a long time, coming off of a year where we felt like we left a lot of meat on the bone. They've been very focused, a lot of fun to work with, a lot of tough days, but days that they know that they've needed to push this needle where it needs to go. An addition of several players who I'm sure we'll talk about, but also some changes on the staff and to be able to promote former players from within. I guess that's when you know you're getting older as a coach. You know, when you get a recruit a young man like Isaiah Moore, Gavin Locklear, coach them, take them to graduation, see them work their butts off to try to continue as players, and then to get into the coaching ranks. And Gavin, now a full-time coach, actually Justin's coach in the tight end room, Isaiah Moore working with our linebackers, and these two guys have brought a lot of energy, and their blood is in the bricks, as I like to say, in this program. And then elevating Elijah Shaw from his role last year to assistant D-line coach and what he brings. And then, Kurt Roper's a guy that, storied offensive coordinator, not only in the ACC at Duke and the success that they had, but in his time in the SEC as an offensive coordinator. Been on my staff for a while now, and Kurt is a guy that brings a lot of energy. He knows how to create cohesion. I feel like this offense has a lot of talent. They were very young last year, so there's experienced guys that knew what to get better at. And it's not just having good players that matters. It's the players playing together. And I know Kurt's going to do that. Obviously, his relationship and the continuity that he brings with our quarterback, I'm sure he'll speak to. But there's a lot of trust there, and that's a big thing in this sport. Defensively, an area that I felt like we struggled last year was getting consistent pressure on the quarterback. And we had a lot of third downs that I think are winnable third downs where we didn't get off the field. And as a former defensive coordinator, pressure on the quarterback is a great fix. And the one thing about DJ Elliott's defenses over the years, everywhere he's been, he's improved their numbers in tackles for loss and sacks. He's learned a lot in this profession as a coordinator in the SEC, ACC, and Pac-12, but also in his time with the Philadelphia Eagles. And the one unique thing about both these coordinators is they're similar to me, similar to our players. We got something to prove. And I think for those of you that know me know that that's something I like. I like being in a room with guys that feel like they're being under the radar, feel like maybe there's some things we got to prove about our team, ourselves as coaches, as players. And so it's a really unique staff. We have gotten younger as a staff, and I think that energy is definitely contagious on the field for these guys at practice. We have really two different things when you look at our team. Our offense returns a lot of the players that played last year, with the exception of a few transfers on the offensive line. If you look at our skill players, Wesley Grimes, Noah Rogers, Keenan Jackson, Terrell Anderson, guys that played a lot last year at receiver are back. At tight end with Justin coming back and obviously improving, but adding an experienced player, Cody Hardy, who you guys haven't watched yet, who's really going to be a dominant player in the run game for us. Our tailback, Hollywood Smothers, really had some big plays for us last year, and then the emergence in the offseason of one of our young backs in Duke Scott. So we have a lot of guys back on offense, along with our quarterback. It's the first time I've had a returning starter at quarterback in 3 years. So your offseason as a head coach is tremendously different when you have an offseason with a starting quarterback. A year ago, he's trying to learn what it's like to be a college student. You know, he's trying to learn an offense. He's trying to learn the names of his coaches, names of his teammates. This year, he's leading those guys. You know, he's taking them out on the field and working on routes. And there's a different thing for him. You know, it's a completely different place that he's in at 200-plus pounds compared to the 170-ish that he was when he got here. And so excited, you know, and some key pieces defensively. We lost a lot of starters. There's a lot of guys that played that are back, but a lot of starters. So this fall camp will be a very competitive fall camp. I think DJ and the defensive staff did a really good job adding some quality pieces to the front. You know, Kean Sloan, 7.5 sacks last year, really good pass rusher. Sebastian Harsh was a really good player at Wyoming. Adding those two guys to the edges of our defensive line. Trey Thomas comes in, a guy that can play multiple positions. And Brian Nelson, a guy that got a lot of accolades as a true freshman at North Texas, tested really well for us last week at corner. You know, a safety that's played every position in the back end, and J.J. Johnson is just a really consistent and good communicator. Kenny Soares, a linebacker that played a lot of positions for Northwestern. So we've added some pieces that have been on the field playing at their other schools. And then we added some guys that were younger that bring a lot to the table. Jaron Sensabaugh, defensive back, whose father had a great career at the school down the road and played in the NFL for a long time. A.J. Richardson, who's been a delight, great leadership, was a captain as a true freshman at his former school, so has proven leadership. And then DJ, he's like me, been through a lot, and through his different stops and learning, it's been fun because I've known him over 20 years but never worked with him, just sitting down and talking football. And he's a great translator of the changes that we're making. He's coached in this exact system at another school, and so he knows the verbiage of it, but he also knows how to translate the verbiage of it into other things that we're doing. We return all of our specialists, so it's nice to have, returning experience and proven guys as punter, snapper, kicker, and look forward to seeing what Jonathan Paylor and Hollywood Smothers and some of these guys can do as our returners this season. And, this league, conference of quarterbacks, puts a lot of teams in bowl games year in and year out, tons of players in the draft. I think is also similar to our program, undervalued and underlooked at times, but year after year has a team fighting to be in the national championship. And so proud to be a competitive member of the ACC and look forward to chasing our dreams and goals. And no different than every year. We have the same aspirations that we've had, and that's to win every game that we play and to put ourselves in a position to be in the conversation at the end of the year. And look forward to the opportunity starting Monday with these guys to show that we're ready to do that. I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, thank you. We'll take your first one right in front of you to the left, front row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. How are you, Coach?
Good, Dan.
To go off of what you were speaking on here and what you've done, 13 years, year 13 at NC State, we don't see that. It's atypical for coaches to be around that long. So just what you can say about why NC State and why build this program for the length of time you have. And then secondly, to go off of your comments on the ACC, if you feel like this is a multi-bid college football playoff caliber conference.
Yeah. NC State was the right fit for me. In my second year at NIU, we'd won a second straight conference championship. Our team was headed to the Orange Bowl. There was a lot of teams that were calling and asking if I would be interested. And at that time, I told Sarah, if we leave, I want to leave for the right fit. I don't want to just chase a name or a school. I want to find something that fits our family. We had 3 sons that I didn't really want to move them again if I didn't have to. And I know that's unrealistic maybe in college football, but I never think about going somewhere and it not working. Okay, I think about what I'm going to do when I get there and how I'm going to do it and the people I need along my side to do it with me. And I found that, you know, at North Carolina State. I found a blue-collar school where the fan base supports the student athletes, a place where I could live and be myself, a place where I could raise my sons, and a place that had the geography that I like, because I love to be outdoors. I love to fish and golf, and to be able to do that in 4 seasons was a blessing. And so we were fortunate, you know, like recruiting. We tell recruits, hey, find the right fit, and I did. And I had a lot of goals when I got here, and I've accomplished a lot of them. But there's still, as I said at the beginning, meat on the bone. You know, 10-plus wins, winning the ACC, being in the playoffs. These are all things that I think and know that we can do with the right players, right staff. And sometimes you got to have a few breaks, you know, staying healthy and things like that. As far as the league, there's no doubt that this league has shown that. And if you go back, I mean, just in my tenure, you know, with Florida State winning national championships, Clemson winning national championships, we've shown that we belong. And just to be candid, I'm not against multiple automatic qualifiers. I think that, you know, to me, I think that limits leagues. You know, you may have 6 teams that are in the top 20 in your league. Why would you only want 3 of them or 4 of them? You know, to me, it ought to be the top, whatever that number is in the playoffs, come up with an algorithm that takes human elements out of it, that rewards people for strength of schedule, quality wins, conference wins, all the things that, you know, you look at that mean something when it comes to successful seasons. Being a coach that actually was in the FCS, that was a part of playoffs, you knew that the top whatever we're in. We didn't have a conference championship game. You had to be in the top 12 or top 16, and, you know, so I've been a part of it where it wasn't messy. And, you know, the only team that's mad is the one that gets left out, that's the lowest ranked. And, you know, I think people can live with the best 15 or 16 teams being in there. So I think we're complicating things too much right now with what league deserves this or deserves that. And, you know, to that point, you know, college football just needs to do its best for college football, not what's best for the Big Ten, SEC, or ACC. We need to do its best for the sport.
We're going to squeeze in one last question. Coach, to your right, second row.
Coach Corey Smith with Pack Pride 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Corey.
You talked about the fact that, you know, you saw some differences in terms of the offense back in the spring. What did you see as far as tangible differences having a guy like C.J. Bailey back, having Hollywood Smothers, having Justin Joly?
When you have returning players, they can build on previous experiences, and you can as a coach. Like, I can point out to those 3 players the areas that they did well and the areas they need to focus on to be better, and then you can see their focus on those areas and help them get to those points where they're improving. And that's, as you know, one of the things we pride ourselves on is being a developmental program, helping guys become better than they were. So when you have a returning player, you're allowed that opportunity. And I think that's one of the things that gets lost in the sauce of transferring. When guys leave, sometimes their development goes down. They may be going to a worse strength program and not know that. They may be going to a position coach that's not a developmental coach. He only coaches the guys that are going to play on game day, you know, and it's the opposite. We want to develop every player in our locker room. We don't care if you're a walk-on, if you're a starter, you're a backup. Our job is to help them get better. That's how we do things at NC State. And so those guys were diligent about being better. And it's not just as players, being better as people, being better as leaders, being better in your weak areas, you know. And so it's nice to be able to do that in regard to changes in the offense. You know, I mean, when you watch offensive football on tape, taking play calling out of it and taking names of plays out of it, a lot of plays are the same, you know, same formations, same plays when you watch all teams. I mean, everybody in some ways run an inside zone, outside zone, counter. You have the same route trees. It's how you package it so that within the game you can make adjustments and call plays the way you need to based on how you're being defended. And that's the one thing I like about the things Kurt's changed. You know, our offense is similar in some ways, and in some ways it's very different in that he can manipulate things quickly with the verbiage that he's changed.